Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are putting a local legend under the microscope. We're going way beyond just storytelling to conduct what is basically a psychological postmortem.
It's a really haunting piece of folklore from northeastern India.
Exactly. And our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's very specific. We've got two main sources we're working with.
That's right. We have the full narrative, which is called The Jump of Kalikai, and then we have these clinical excerpts from behavioral analysts from a paper called the Nohkalikai Anomaly.
And the goal here isn't just to retell a spooky story, right? It's to surgically extract what those analysts found.
Yes, we're looking at the breakdown of core human instinct, the anatomy of a betrayal, and what happens when realization just comes way, way too late.
We're really treating this whole thing like case file 001, a tragedy where you only realize the danger after you've already swallowed it. It's inside you.
Precisely. This story is rooted in a real place, a real geography, which makes it a perfect mechanism for exploring psychological trauma. You know, what happens when exhaustion and necessity just collide.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start at the beginning, with the foundations of the tragedy. Our main character is Kalikai.
A woman living in Meghalaya. And the story immediately tells you her life is defined by one thing. Just sheer punishing physical work.
She was a porter, which means she was carrying these incredibly heavy loads, iron, stone, you name it, across these brutally steep hills.
Her whole existence was a fight against gravity and fatigue. And that fatigue is the key. It's the ingredient everyone overlooks. Her body was just constantly in an energy deficit.
The narrative even says her back was always bent, her hands were hard. She had a daughter, too, a small child.
Maybe 3 or 4 years old. So her entire focus was just singular. Provide for this child.
And because that work was so all-consuming, she needed help at home, which brings us to her second marriage.
And the sources are so clear about this. It was not a romance. It was a purely functional, transactional decision based on survival.
She needed a man who could stay home, cook the meals, and look after her daughter while she was out earning the money to keep them all alive.
The analysts, they have a term for this. They call it a necessity override.
What does that mean exactly?
It means her need to survive, her economic need, it just overrode her instinctual vigilance in picking a partner. She prioritized the functional facade, he'll be there, he'll cook over, knowing the man's actual character.
And for a little while, it worked. The house was functional, he cooked, the child was looked after, she worked. But then the shift began.
These subtle behavioral cues started to appear, things that in hindsight are just glaring red flags.
Like what? What were they?
Well, for one, the little girl, she stopped running to the door, all excited when her mother came home. Just stopped.
And the stepfather's gaze. The story mentions this cold, silent stare he'd give the child as Kalikai was leaving for work. Just these little shifts in the emotional climate.
And this is where the fatigue plays its cruelest trick on her,
She was just too tired, too hungry, too consumed by the pain of her work to question it.
Exactly. Her brain was just screaming, eat, rest, get ready for tomorrow. It wasn't screaming, stop and analyze your husband's behavior.
So she just suppressed it, pushed it down because dealing with it would have taken energy she just didn't have.
That's central to the Nohkalikai anomaly, overlooking warning signs because of total physical depletion.
Which brings us to this fascinating psychological anchor in her life, this daily ritual.
The betel leaves.
Yes.
Every single day after her meal, she would prepare and chew betel leaves and nut, a practice her own mother taught her. It was a punctuation mark. It was the one thing that signaled the end of the workday and the start of rest. The only predictable, sort of structurally sound part of her life. Her one small comfort.
And it's the timing of this ritual that leads us right to the disaster. The story tells us about a day she came home early.
Her load was lighter that day. The trip was faster. She walks into the house, and right away, something is off. The silence.
She finds her husband at the stove, cooking, but the child is nowhere.
So she asks, where is she? And he says she's sleeping. But the narrative gives us this chilling detail. It says his voice had no weight.
An empty answer, a null response.
She checks the room. It's empty. She comes back. But here's the critical point. The food was ready. It was hot. And she was starving.
Hunger is an answer that doesn't wait for answers. That's the line from the story, isn't it?
It is. She was too physically depleted to hold on to that maternal suspicion. And this is the moment the analysts focus on. They call it a failure of biological instinct.
A bio-override.
A bio-override, exactly. Her brain is just getting flooded with hunger signals, and it basically shuts down the part that's responsible for suspicion. Hunger won.
And the meal itself, it was different. Richer is how it's described. It had meat she didn't recognize.
She asks him what kind of meat it is, and he just says he bought it from a trader. A vague, simple answer. And she eats it all.
You have to wonder, why didn't she push? I mean, she was already suspicious.
Because her body's survival instinct was warped. It saw high-quality protein, energy, and it prioritized that above everything. In her exhausted state, her brain probably registered different as a good thing, not a warning sign.
Before we get to the realization, we have to talk about the husband's motive. Because the analysis here is just shockingly cold.
It's very clinical. They don't just label him as evil or psychotic.
No, they call it something else, something much more functional.
That's right. The analysts view his crime not as an act of rage, but as an evolutionary drive to erase a rival's lineage.
Wait, hold on. An evolutionary drive? That sounds almost innate. Are they really suggesting this is some kind of dark primal function?
For the purpose of the analysis, yes. They're looking for a pattern. If it was just rage, he might have attacked her, the wife. But the target was the child.
The link to her previous life, her independence.
Precisely. By removing the child, he was functionally asserting total control, making himself the only anchor in her world. It's about securing dominance, not just venting anger. It makes the crime strategic.
That is profoundly unsettling. Okay, so now, the moment of realization. The point of no return. She's eaten the meal, her hunger is gone, she's finally relaxing.
And she reaches for her ritual, the beetle basket. The timing is everything. It's only when that biological urgency of hunger is gone that her suspicion is allowed to come back.
But it's too late.
Far too late.
She opens the beetle basket, her comfort, her container for the day's stress, and inside is not the leaves and nut, it's something small and horrific.
A small finger, severed cleanly at the knuckle.
And the narrative gives you the one detail that just locks the horror in your mind forever. The finger was still wearing the tiny ring she'd made for her child out of thread.
Oh, that's the detail that makes it real. It's not abstract evidence, it's personal.
She looks at the finger, and then her eyes snap to the pot on the stove, still warm, and that's it, the fracture. And her reaction is so strange. She doesn't scream, she doesn't collapse.
She runs. The sources are clear on this. She just bolts out of the house, clutching the finger, running through the village.
Yeah.
People are calling her name, trying to stop her, but she's just gone. She's pure motion.
The analysts use the beetle basket itself as a metaphor, don't they? They call it a psychological containment unit. Can you break that down?
Sure. In trauma theory, a containment unit is anything. A routine, an object that holds unmanageable truth or fear. The beetle ritual was her safe box. It was the lid she put on the day's trauma.
And he put the evidence inside it.
He put the evidence inside her containment unit, which meant she was forced to physically open the lid to the truth she had been fighting so hard to ignore. It forced the confrontation.
And once that confrontation happened, all that was left was that forward motion.
Total, unreasoning forward motion. She ran toward the edge of the land, the cliff, and she never slowed down. She was running from the house, from the meal, from the awful knowledge.
And that final line in the narrative, it just hits you like a physical blow. It says she didn't die from the fall.
She died the moment she saw the finger. The rest was just motion.
The psychological death happened when she saw that tiny thread ring. The fall was just the body catching up.
It's the ultimate statement on delayed truth, isn't it?
So what does all this mean for us now? The power of this story is that it's anchored to a real place, a place that carries the weight of the story.
The waterfall is real. It's called Nohkalikai Falls in Meghalaya. And this is where the tragedy becomes permanent, physical.
It's huge, right? The tallest plunge waterfall in the country.
Over 1,000 feet. And the name itself means literally the jump of Kalikai. The land itself tells her story.
And there's that strange physical detail that the folklore uses to just cement the horror, the pool at the bottom. It's green.
An unnatural green. Not blue, not gray. A distinct, vibrant, unsettling green. And that color becomes the silent, constant witness. The water never stops. The plunge is constant. The horror is perpetual.
Locals say you can hear her at night, not screaming, but crying, searching.
And that history is so visceral that camping near the base is forbidden. Not by law, but by this powerful collective understanding of the place.
It's a landscape that just refuses to let the story die. The part that stays, as the narrative says, isn't the fall, it's the meal. What she consumed without knowing.
And what she understood far, far too late.
So we started with what seems like a local horror story, and we end with a forensic analysis of instinct failure.
You see this devastating collision, the mother's exhaustion and physical need meeting the husband's dark psychological drive to erase a rival lineage and assert control.
And the analysis leaves us with a really challenging question, doesn't it? Have modern humans, in a world where we're not usually starving, have we lost sensitivity to those primal
The
instincts?
ones that might have saved her. Her exhaustion was so absolute it just completely overrode her sense of caution.
It forces you to confront how easily routine and just necessity can blind us to threats that are right there, just under the surface.
The story, when you look at it this way, becomes this dark monument to delayed truth. It's about trusting those small, quiet cues before they're silenced for good.
Nohkalikai Falls is a beautiful place today, a tourist spot. But if you stand there long enough, our sources suggest you have to look past the beauty. You have to wonder if that never-ending fall of water is a monument less to grief and more to that final, shattering realization.
That some truths can only be seen clearly after you've already swallowed them whole. A powerful thought. Sometimes the knowledge you needed most was the information you were just too tired or too hungry to look for.
We encourage you to reflect on the stories that are held in place and stone, just waiting to be discovered. Until next time, keep exploring the deep dive.